Have you ever wondered what games you should keep or you should lose? Find out here at Purge Reviews. Have you ever wondered what games you should sell or you should use? Find out here at Purge Reviews. Find out on our top 10 list what games you cannot miss. Don't forget to subscribe to Purge Reviews.
Reef Encounter! Okay, where do I start? I encountered the Reef. I have this version of the game. I know the other version's more desirable. I've had this game on my shelf forever! I could have grown into the Reef Encounter. The rules were just complicated. When I first started gaming, I brought this out. Every so often I'd bring the rule book out and I would just read it. And it was so complicated to me. And now it just seems really, really simple, to be honest. 100% honest, I don't find the game all that appetizing. I didn't find it all that interesting. And I definitely didn't find it fun. Now, I realize I'm in the minority with this one. That Richard Breeze is very well distinguished in our hobby. I understand that this is a game that a lot of people desire and want. And they find it very difficult to play. Here's the thing. I found the scoring just to be I want to say a mess, but I know I'm going to get a lot of feedback for that. I just found it arbitrary and difficult to understand exactly how to score. You almost want to push your luck with that little shrimp and make it as big as possible, but then on the other hand, you want to end it as quickly as possible. Not a game for me. I just felt like when I was playing this, there are a lot of other games I don't want to play. It can get a little mean, very abstracty, and to be honest, I didn't like the artwork. And maybe I liked the other version. The shrimp with the eyes on it were cute. I didn't like the artwork on the tiles. If I was being 100% honest, I probably didn't like the theme. It's something different. It's neat, but doesn't draw me in. Building a reef, I don't know. I don't know what I didn't like about it. I can just tell you I didn't. I just found it very dry and abstract, and the scoring just seemed arbitrary to me. And, you know, flipping those tiles over. Somebody flipped over a tile. I mean, they can't really screw you, but it can only be flipped once, the scoring tiles, to tell you how things score. And if somebody concentrated on that pretty quickly, it could get bad for you. But, I mean, it just seemed like all the scores were pretty close every game that I played. So this is the beloved game, Reef Encounter, that I'm going to tell you to pass on, or at least try before you buy. It just wasn't enough for me. And I really wanted to be able to tell you something different. This is a game I hoped I would get to the table and just absolutely adore and love. And, you know, this went from an independent Richard Breeze game, which ended up being published by Z-Man, and is in Vassal's top games with R, and I just heard so much good about it. I was hoping, and I didn't have my hopes up high. I honestly didn't, because I look at it and I just dreaded to play it every time. It was just not something that was going to appeal to me, and end up not appealing to me. The components are good. I think the gameplay is solid. I think there's a reason why this game is highly regarded, Richard Breeze, and it's a solid game. But also not a game that you hear on a lot of top lists of favorite games, and you don't hear a lot about it, and people don't go crazy about it. It's almost one of those games that we've been told to like more than we actually like it. That reminds me of Independence Day, the first movie, where it's okay. Everybody tells me I should like it, but it's not that great of a movie, and then the history shows us that it hasn't held up all that well. So I haven't played a lot of Richard Breeze games. This is the first one I played. I have his entire collection of games that he's made. And this will be the first one I'm going to purge. I'm going to get rid of Reef Encounter. I don't think I want to sit down and play it again. Didn't appeal to me. The theme didn't work. There wasn't a lot that I liked about it. So Purge, watch how it plays and see if you like it. components for Reef Encounter. There's two versions to this game. I have the Z-Man version, obviously. This is not the one people usually want. They usually want the original one's more of a collector, but this, I think the game is exactly the same. Very pretty, colorful cover. Doesn't attract me. It's not the style of art I like, but very nice. You can have a rule book. Now the rules, this is not the easiest rule book in the world. It's not the rules' fault. It's just a kind of an abstract, funny game. The theme is unusual to say the least, but I found after I'd been in gaming for a while, the rule book was much easier for me to get through. Everybody would get a parrotfish, which is really just a way for you to, when you put this on the table, you'll be able to drop your scoring in here, and the table becomes the bottom of it. And that's at the end of the game. Whoop, you undo this, and the scoring comes through. So everybody can get one of those. And these are really nice cardboard. You put this together yourself, but it's really nice. You get a number of tiles. These are the scoring tiles. So this one tells you that black is worth more than yellow. Yellow is worth more than black, and it's always the opposite on each side. These tiles are very thick and very nice. Here are the tiles you will draw during the game. Not so much looking at color, really. It's kind of confusing. This is white, this is black, but the designs are fairly obvious, I think. The coolest little part is probably this shrimp that you get, and they have eyeballs on them. That's probably the neatest little shrimple, maybe the meeple of shrimple. You get a number of cubes. I'm not crazy about the coloring of the cubes. I don't think they match up perfectly with what they should be, but these are just regular thick wooden cubes, and you're gonna get the wooden sheet, the wooden shrimp in there. These are gonna be the player aids for each color. The only difference is the color on it. It means nothing. These are thick, and these are all the possible options that you have, right? Actions you can do in the game. On a turn, you're gonna get these standees, and my problem with standees always are is that they're not really tall enough. These are thicker than most, and they stand up better than most. I'll give it credit for that. I don't know that they're ever tall enough. You know, how tall can they be so nobody else can see, but you can still see the board. This is the kind of the player board where tiles will be placed out, where you're able to take things from, and the scoring on it. These are very thick and nice. And then you have the board where the tiles will be played. And these are randomized, how it's set up, and a little bit how they play. But everybody will be playing to the same boards. And that's the components for Reef Encounter. Everything is very nice. Z-Man did a really good job with the components. I'm not crazy with some of the art direction. I'm not... But what you get is very well produced. Let me put it that way. So components are very, very nice. The rules for Reef Encounter are, I used to find them very challenging. Now I was able to breeze through it, no pun intended. The scoring at the end is a little bit to download about that. You really got to understand how it works. And the game is so... It's not like any other game I've played. It's very abstract. You want to build them up to score as many points as possible, but you got to keep your eye on how they're going to score at the end of the game. There's just a lot to keep track of in your mind. I don't mind that in games. It just wasn't particularly interesting. I didn't realize why I wanted this coral reef. I get to score points in the parrotfish or something with the shrimp. It just was all lost on me. But the rules, I think you'll get through it. There's only a few things you can do on a turn. And some of the things you can't do at the beginning of the game, so you don't really necessarily have to explain those. You can kind of explain those as the game progresses. Or maybe mention them and then go through more detail later, which makes the game a little bit easier to understand and to learn. But I think you need to read this rule book a couple times to embrace this game, unless you're just used to this type of game, or maybe his other games are exactly like it, you know, in the difficulty of learning it. But I struggled with it for a long time. I'm not embarrassed to say that, but I was able to learn how to play it and through the rule book and didn't have a lot of questions. It's just a lot of, okay, I have all these available options to me. How do I turn those into points? And that's really where the game comes in. This game, to me, is very difficult to understand. I'm going to do my best here to explain it. So I'm going to explain it the way that I know how to explain it. I'm not trying to teach you this game. I'm just trying to show you some things or some concepts about it and maybe show the flow of the game. So this is going to be your scoring mechanism. And when you score things in tiles, you're going to drop them in here, okay? And at the end of the game, you will take this off and you'll score based on the scoring mechanisms in the game. So that's what this does, okay? Not very complicated. Let me get a number of this out. So what this board is going to do is each of these is going to have a cube on it. And the colors really don't match up all that well to me, which was a minor nuisance. And then you're going to be able to place a number of tiles out here. So and this might have 2, this might have 3. And each round, if it doesn't have 3, you're going to be adding more to it. And 3 is the maximum that it can have. So how this board is utilized, and you'll have these scoring things up here, randomized at the beginning of the game, or there's a way for people to pick what goes out. But this is how the game is going to score. So if pink's at the end of the game, see if I can explain this right. If pink is dominant 1, and you know they're dominant because there's 2 pink to black. Now this can be flipped during the game, say 2 black is worth more than pink. But you can kind of see there's 2 versus the 1. Hopefully that makes sense. Pink is dominant 1, 2, 3 spaces. So every pink tile you get is worth 3 points. Now this can be flipped in the game, and once it's flipped, it's permanently flipped. It can only be flipped once. White is worth 2 points. Orange is worth 3. Black is worth 2. So, and so on and so on. So that's just going to tell you how the game is going to score at the end. Once again, you're only scoring for what you're able to get into your parrotfish. The way this works is that at the beginning of a turn, or at the end of your turn, you can take a cube and the tiles that are sitting there, okay? And then a new yellow cube would come out, and you would fill up everybody who has less than 3 with 1 tile, okay? So that's kind of how that works. That's how you get the cubes and the tiles. We've all seen that before. So the main brunt of it is going to be these actions that you're able to do. And I think the easiest way for me to do it is just kind of look at this and show you what you can do. So here, the first action, and the 10th action. This one must be first. This one must always be last. This one I've already described to you. This is where you take the cube and the tiles off the board. Once you do that, you're in turns. So the first thing you can do on your turn, and it must be the first thing, and if you do not do it first thing, you may not do it, is you may eat your parrotfish, which is this, thematically, I guess, or abstractly, is you can eat any collection of coral that has your shrimp on it. Then you put your shrimp, and you put the tiles, and I believe it has to be 5 or more. They have a picture of 6, but I believe the rules say 5. You put those in your parrot, and they will score. Now, you only have 4 shrimp. So once 4 shrimp are eaten, then you can end the game will end. Now, the first shrimp eaten, the shrimp don't score any points. The first one's put on this board, and once a shrimp is eaten, you can then manipulate the scoring. It's a minor rule. I don't want to get bogged down with that. But so what this allows you to do is, at the beginning of your turn, if it has your shrimp on it, you can eat the coral, which will score you at the end of the game. Now, this is pretty easy. This allows you, for an action, you can do it as many times as you can afford to. You can spend a cube that you have and up to 4 tiles of the same color, orange, orange, yellow, yellow, and place them out on the board. Okay? Very easy. You give up an orange, and then if you had orange tiles, let's say I had 2 of them, I could place them out on the board. Very simple. I'm not going to bog down our rules here. It's very simple. You just place them out on the board. This allows you to do it a second time. You notice the ones that have 1 axe you can only do once. So you can actually, even though these colors being different mean nothing, it's just telling you can take that same action twice. Give up a cube and play up to 4 of the same. Obviously, it's always going to behoove you to play as close to 4 as possible because you're giving up a cube for each one. All right. This allows you to put a shrimp on a tile anywhere you want. And what the shrimp is going to do, not only allow you to eat it at the beginning of your turn, but it also blocks people from sabotaging that space. And this will allow you to move a shrimp on the board to a different tile. So if your shrimp was on the board, or the first action was take it from behind and place it there. Or if, I don't know, yellow was over here,
for a different action, I could do this. Now, I can only take one of these from behind my screen and put it on the board, but I can move them around the board infinitely. And that's shown here by 1x put on the board, and there's no 1x there to move around. Now, here's where life gets tough, okay? You are able... Let me skip down for a second. This is pass. Ridiculous they put it there. This one means you can turn a cube at any time and get a tile of the same color. So it doesn't go the opposite way, but that means you can put that out there. Okay, so let me explain what this is. So sometimes you will get tiles in front of your screen. And I'm sorry that I'm just pointing this player aid, but I think it just makes the most sense. So if you're building and you're building next to something, as long as there isn't a shrimp, shrimp always protects everything orthogonal to it. I could change this out for a yellow tile if I had one and I was placing them if this shrimp was not there. And then this would come in front of my screen. And the ones in front of your screen work a little bit differently. If it's in front of your screen, I can change it for the cube that I want. That's very, 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 very useful. And I'm going to leave it with there. So what you're doing mostly is you're trying to get as large a collection as you dare of coral, of the same color. Now, the larger it is, when it has your shrimp on it, the larger it is, the more points you're going to score. So why wouldn't you just fill up the whole board? Because what you don't want, if you start getting too big for your britches, and you start getting a lot of yellow out here, let's say, even though some of these moves I'm doing right now may not be legal moves, so let's say my shrimp was here just for argument's sake, what orange is going to do is he's going to start coming in and eating away at it. Okay? And you want to score it before he does that. And that's kind of the rub in the game. When do you score this? How big are you trying to draw it out? What cubes do you have? What tiles do you have? It is extremely abstract to me. It didn't click in my mind all that well. I don't know that I've done a great job explaining it, but that's kind of how that works. So at the end of your turn, you can take those, and if you want to give up a tile in front, remember, you get that by battling, by eating other coral, then you can put this token that you get, and that's how you're going to manipulate the scoring up there. I don't know that any of this actually made sense. I feel like this is how I would teach the game if you were in my living room or my dining room and we were going to play this game. I would go through this. So let me go through it one more time and just beat a dead horse. Beginning of your turn, you can eat, if it has your shrimp, it has 5 or more. This allows you to, if you give up a cube, you can place a color or tiles of that color on the board, and you can do that twice. This one allows you 1 time per turn to put a shrimp out on the board, and this allows you infinite amount of times on that turn to move the shrimp around. If you have one in front of you, you can turn it in for a cube of your choice, or you can use it to manipulate the end of game scoring. Anytime you want to give up a cube, you can draw a tile of the same color. You can pass. At the end of your turn, you take one of the options on the board, you get the cube and the tiles. Not that complicated. The fighting in it, the way the shrimps protect, slight roll, it's not... It's one of those abstract games that are deceptively deep more than it's the rules itself, but the theme is weird. It doesn't fit together with the game, I don't feel. Maybe Coral works this way and I'm just oblivious to it. So it makes it more difficult to learn, I think, or at least that was my experience. Your mileage may vary, but that's Reef Encounter for the most part. I'm not sure this is going to teach you how to play the game as much as maybe go over some of the options that you have and explain what I found to be difficult about it.
His games. Definitely fans of Richard Breese games. I think that he kind of has a name for himself for the type of games that he has. I think the theme calls you in about growing the reef and the fish, and it's going to attract people right away. That was the opposite for me. In addition, I think you're going to have to be okay with abstract and dry. I think that it's all about scoring points and how you're going to score those points. But the game, really, I mean, if somebody gets 4 reefs, the game is over. You get 1 more turn. So I think you're going to be limited there on how that's going to end. At the end of the day, I didn't really care for the art. I didn't really care for the look of the game. I didn't really care for the theme or the gameplay. It really wasn't a whole lot that I liked about it. So I'm going to go ahead and purge this one. highly recommend if you're buying this based on its reputation that you try it before you buy it, or you just know, well, gosh darn it, I like games like this, and this is really, really appealing to me. Because I didn't find a whole lot inside the box that I like. I didn't find the choices interesting. I found them more just... You know, I like a lot of games on how I can just score points, but I felt like I was limited in how to score points. Like, you need to get those in your parrotfish. And the question really is, how big do I let it grow before somebody tries to steal it or eat away at it? And I don't know that I found that all that interesting. But for those that like it, no harm, no foul. You're allowed to enjoy it just because I didn't. But Reef Encounter would be a purge for me.